This is my fawn piece, and when I was carving one of her layers, I accidentally carved away her tail, which was supposed to stay on that layer. So what we are going to do today is a little bit of Frankensteining my block together using scrap linoleum, super glue, tracing paper, and a soft lead pencil. The first thing that I did was trace the part of the design that had been removed that shouldn't have been, and then I transferred that over and carved away that exact section. I have found if you're very careful in making sure that your X-Acto knife is perfectly perpendicular and not slanted at all, it'll make your life a lot easier. After that was done, I traced the piece that I had just removed onto one of my scrap pieces of linoleum. And I obviously have enough to spare, so if I made a mistake a couple of times, I could retry. And again, when I was carving this, I wanted to try and keep my edges as perpendicular to the cutting mat as possible. I don't want any slants or anything like that because it's going to make it harder to get a good connection with the super glue. Once that was done, I just had to troubleshoot the fit. And luckily on this piece, it was pretty good to go initially. There was like some gaps, but it wasn't going to cause issues with the design. Next thing to do was to add super glue onto all of the edges. And then I obviously put it on top of my tracing paper so it wouldn't stick to my cutting mat. And then I let it dry for probably about an hour. That's probably more than I needed to do, but I wanted to give it a lot of time to cure because the rubber may take a little bit longer to cure than you'd have for another surface. Once everything was feeling nice and dry, I made sure to add the design onto my Frankensteined piece. And honestly, it didn't look too bad. One of the main reasons why this one was successful is I was able to cut in between the image areas, so it was very easy for that gap to not show up. And I forgot to record carving on this block, but it really was fine as soon as it was dry. There was no really issue of it getting damaged. So we're immediately rolling into registration testing. So we're going to want to make sure that everything is aligned and it's working. If not, I would probably just cut out a slightly larger section and try again. Worst case scenario, I would just recarve the entire layer, but I'm trying to avoid doing that. And it's not that I don't trust that I got it right, but I'm going to test out just my Frankenstein layer with my line work and make sure to troubleshoot that first before I add the complexity of the other layers. I am also going to wait to turn it into a jigsaw until after I know my alignment is good. So yes, even though it's a Frankenstein piece, it's going to be a Frankenstein piece that is turned into a jigsaw. It's going to be a very special life for this layer. So the Frankenstein layer, it looks just fine, but we won't really know what's wrong until we add the line work, because then I'll know, did I carve too much? Did I carve too little? Is something off, or is it perfect? In case you're curious, the paper that I'm testing on is using Bristol paper. I found that that works best with the inks that I like to use for my stamp pads. All right, and now for the reveal. How close is the underside of her tail to being in the right spot? And it is pretty darn close. I just need to carve away a little bit more, but it should be good to print. I hope this helps if you try Frankensteining any blocks, and thanks for watching.